I'm not sure what the question was there. You started off talking about priorities in the Conservative Party.
Let me say again. In the Tories' manifesto, one of the big things is gender equality. Does that mean I should vote for Tories?
Oh, should a man vote for gender equality? OK.
Well, I think you should vote for gender equality if you're a man. I think that men and women should be equal, but I don't think you're going to get it from the Tory party.
But I think that's a valid point. Look, the Tory party, the Conservative Party as they're known, is about marriage, about old-fashioned values, about representing a certain way of life, about encouraging people to stay together. It's not really about a modern view of the world, and certain people like that. Why would a man vote against the family, which is sometimes how they paint the Labour Party?
Well, I think that if you look at the question of the family, none of the parties are saying particularly that they're against the family, and they all stressed, as one of the previous callers said, their own family values and their own children, and they've all actually in this election got young children, which they do talk about and all that kind of thing. But I don't think that if you want gender equality, you really want the kind of narrow focus on marriage and the family, which traditionally has been associated with the Tories, which has always relegated women to very much being in the home, to not being part of wider society. And I think that would be a backward step.
I think the really interesting point here is 50% of the voting, the electorate are women, and yet there's no strong campaign strategy to really say we're going to fight for your rights, we're going to go against domestic violence, for example, a huge problem. We're going to even up the pay for women. Why is this not a campaign strategy, or why is it not being heard?
Well, because if you look at what they're campaigning on, it's not actually the issues that people are really concerned about in most of their lives. If you look at what they're campaigning on, it's incredibly narrow. Who is the most responsible leader? Who are the people who are the most photogenic? Who has the wife who seems most attractive? So, of course, none of these issues get a look in, and yet this is what people are talking about.
OK, right, to our next caller now. What's your name? Welcome to Vote Who.
Hello, this is Shahana speaking.
Welcome.
I appreciate Lindsay German, and thank you for her all work she has done for mankind. And now my question is, I live in Eltham constituency area, so I think Liberal Party is doing, or their policy is better not to give war to outside the country unnecessary. So I want your comment on this, please.
A comment on the Labour Party?
On what exactly about the Labour Party?
Oh, and what about the Labour Party? You said they're doing well?
No. Liberal Party is...
The Liberal Party doing well?
So,
OK.
Well, no, I think the Liberal Party is obviously benefiting from the television debates, from its exposure, and that tells you something about how much it's been a two-party system for so long. And I think people see the Lib Dems very often as a breath of fresh air. I think, unfortunately, when you look at lots of their policies, I'm particularly disappointed about the war in Afghanistan, but there are a whole number of other policies where they might be a bit better in some respects than the others, but I don't think they'll mean real fundamental change.
Thanks, Lindsay. We're running short of time, so let's get the next question in.
I'm 15.
I'm 15.
I'm 16.
I'm 15.
And we want to know why we're not allowed to vote.
Well,
that is a great question, and the answer is they should be able to vote at 16. I believe that all young people should be able to vote at 16. They are able to get married, they can join the army at 17, they can do all sorts of things. Why shouldn't they have a say? And it would make them more involved and more thinking about which way they were going to vote.
Yet 90 years after suffrage was brought in, young girls feel very much outside the political process. So there isn't is there an outreach programme of each of the parties? And do you think one party is better than the others at getting into schools and colleges and saying, let's campaign for a better world for all of us?
I think that the parties, they use the education, they go to schools and so on to get their ideas across, and that's absolutely fair enough. But they don't really think about what the young people need. Again, in my experience, young people are incredibly aware politically. They live in a very dangerous world. They're worried about global warming, they're worried about war, they're worried about their future and unemployment and what it's going to cost them to live.
Lindsay, final thought on what is going to be lost if we don't have many female MPs after this election?
Well, it will lose a real fresh approach to politics, and it will lose women's voice. And women, particularly the poorest women, do need a voice in this society and do need to be able to get into Parliament.
And one party shining through, would it be the Tories trying to get more women in this time, in your opinion?
Well, I think that the Tories, I think this is a very bogus, this sort of pro-feminist stance that they're giving, I think is a bogus stance, and I don't think they'll ever do anything very much good for women.
Lindsay German, thanks very much for joining us tonight, and best of luck with your campaign Stop the War coalition. They're not standing for Parliament, I hasten to add. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and remember that we're on every night with another special programme of Vote Who. The next one will be presented by Andrew Gilligan. He'll be here. From all of us, good evening.